Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with My Hero Academia. Last time on My Hero Academia, we had the lovely Lady Nagant, where basically, we had the fight between Deku and Lady Nagant. We learned her backstory, how she was a assassin for the government who was disillusioned and eventually killed the Safety Commissioner. Yes. Something like that. Whatever his title was. He killed someone important. Anyway, so there was a whole fight. Deku achieved faux 100% by using 45% of One For All, plus the third user's quirk, Fajin, and was able to defeat her, and then she was like, maybe this kid's right. Maybe there is hope for the future. Maybe I don't need to do anything that All For One says. At which point she exploded because All For One put in a quirk that if she ever went against the contract, she would explode. Which is one of the dumbest friggin' things I've ever heard in my life, but we move on. And then, and then there was a whole thing of Chisaki, and he wants to say sorry to Pops, but Deku was like, if you want to see Pops, then you need to say sorry to Eri, which, okay, because I don't think I went into this too much in the last episode. I get the idea behind that. Do not let him anywhere near Eri. Even if he won't do anything, do not bring that trauma back to that girl. Are you insane? No, she is doing so well, and seeing Chisaki, even in the state he's in, that will not help. That will just make everything come back, I get what Deku was saying, but that is an awful idea. And also, at the very least, don't do that without Eri saying okay, do this 10, 20 years from now, and maybe you could do that. Maybe you could do that, and only if she's okay with it. But do not let this traumatized 6-year-old girl relive all that by seeing Chisaki. Okay? Okay. I just wanted to say that real quick. But I understand the sentiment. It's the thought that counts. And besides, Endeavor's sending him back to prison anyway, so who cares? So. Anywho, the big fight with Lady Nagant is over, so let's figure out what else we're going to be doing this season. I don't know. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure, so let's go ahead and jump right into this episode of My Hero Academia. Here we go. Well, okay, the good news is that everything that I'm saying of, this is going so far away from Deku's character, A, it is and it isn't. We'll face that fact in a sec. B, that's the point. That is the point. Now, A, it is and it isn't. Because on the one hand, yes, Deku would go and do this by himself, to make sure that nobody is in harm's way. Nobody could, get hurt by All For One. He would do this himself, and he wouldn't rest. He would just say he's fine, and he would grit and bear it, even though it's really stupid. On the other hand, it's not Deku's character, because the whole point is to smile. And if there is one thing that Deku is awful at, it is smiling. Because that is the whole point. Through multiple seasons, that's All Might will always smile. All Might will always smile. That is what he learned from his master. That is the goddamn point. Now, yes, when he was fighting All For One, the smile faded a bit. That's true. But in the end, he still smiled. He still held his arm up high. He did not abandon anything. He remembered everything. Everything. And I say that, Deku has the thing that All Might didn't. A friend. It still ain't true, Because when he was in the U.S., he had Dave Shield. When he was... The first time, clearly the first time that he faced All for One, he had Night Eye. The second time he faced All for One, he had Gran Torino. When he was growing up, he had Shimura and Gran Torino. He always had somebody. And so Deku going alone, it just don't work. It just don't work. And the whole thing, too, of like, oh, I will, you all will stay at UA and not fight, and I'll do all the fighting for you. Dude, they're heroes. This is what they're meant to do. They're meant to fight for the people. You cannot take that away from them. You cannot. Now, if they choose not to be, that's one thing. Like Death Arms. Fuck Death Arms. Way to fucking ruin his character. The man was in episode 1, along with Kamui Woods and Mount Lady. He was there. He was one of the first heroes we see. And now he's leaving. He retired because he just couldn't take the insults. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, just... And look... I get that, yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to hear that stuff. And yes, one insult will overshadow 20,000 compliments you get. I get that. But fucking deal with it. Bullshit. It's actual bullshit. And again, it's, it's my whole thing of, like, oh, the people are so against the heroes. It's like, Japan would be dead if it wasn't for these heroes. Like, I don't think so. Like, and this, again, I think it's just the difference between America and Japan, I guess. Or at least the Japan that the author, made for this manga. That it's like, no, after a giant terrorist attack like that, no, we're not going to blame anybody. Well, we're not going to turn on each other. The thing, too. Because they've set up this whole big fight now. It's like, Deku is going to have to fight Class A. And you would think it's like, okay, well, he's exhausted. He's fucking exhausted, So, you would think this fight would not last too long. But he has the power of bullshit on his side. Because, yeah, he has achieved a false version of 100% with no blowback thanks to Fajin. And he has a bunch of other quirks. So now that he's just, risen in the ranks so much. And yes, he's had a lot of progress since the sports festival. And... So yeah, like, he can fight Todoroki better than he did back then, a year ago. But it's going to take all of them to beat him. Even though, it's like, yes, he has all these quirks and all this power and stuff, he's also exhausted, I am just so glad, because, it's exactly what I said when he left. That it's like, yeah, Bakugo and Uraraka are going to beat the shit out of you for doing this, Like, somebody's going to be sleeping on Uraraka's couch for a while, Metaphorically, I suppose. He's going to be on the metaphorical couch for a while, It is kind of nice to see those goofy fucks again, though. Bakugo's ridiculous. But I love seeing Sero and Mineta and Aoyama and Kaminari and all these goofy fucks. Oh, it's so good to see them again because they're goofy, And I know we had them earlier in this season, but just everything has been so goddamn dour. And it's so... But I guess I'm glad that this is the point, Because it's mainly been a thing. I think it's also part of the problem is the fans, because I've seen people just laud this season, and it's a thing. Even if you disagree with me, that's fine. But it's the thing of when I see people absolutely praising something that I just don't, or I'm like, no, I don't see it that way. It becomes that sort of, I guess almost, what is it, animalistic kind of thing of like, well, no, but I must be right. It just becomes this competitive thing. And I think that's affected how I see this season because I look at people saying, oh, this season is the peak of MHA, and look at how cool Deku is with his, he's like Batman out there, and I'm like, that is not the goddamn point. But now at least the show is saying, yeah, that's not the point. Like, there were citizens there who were terrified of him, They're looking at the fact that he can use multiple quirks, and he's got this terrifying hood on, and they're like, oh my god, we don't know who he is. He did save us, but we don't know who he is. We're getting the hell away, Because he's not being All Might. He's being Batman. And not like movie Batman, Not like, the hopeful Batman that you sometimes get in the movies. I mean like scene 1 Batman, where he's just terrifying, When nobody knows who he is, It's when Michael Keaton drags, that criminal up by his ankles and he says, I'm Batman. Like that's the Batman that Deku is. Not end of movie Batman who, the people are like, this Batman guy, he's trying to beat the Joker, let's go help him or something, And it is so not Deku, because I get it. I understand it. I understand that Deku is going through a character arc right now, but this character arc means he's not being Deku. And it's a funny thing. Because it's like, because of All for One that Deku is, so going against his character. Funny. Because when we went through all of the Overhaul arc, the Shie Hisaikai arc, and Deku never really lost his character. How did that happen? Where we went through all of the Overhaul arc, which is a dark fucking arc. It's brilliant. I love it, but it is a dark story. And not once did Deku ever lose himself. Just kick his ass already. Kick his ass and let him sleep for a bit. Because again, it's like, I have to keep going. I have to do all of this. It's like, okay, Deku is supposed to be smart. He's supposed to be smart. He would know that this is not going to help him. Because, I've been making my jokes about All for One. And honestly, I still don't see how it's that much of a threat. Like, yes, All for One is still as powerful as All Might. As he was when he fought All Might. However, Deku has now achieved the strength of All Might at 45%, no less. Plus, he has 20,000 other quirks. I don't see it. I just don't see it. But now, there is a way that All for One would be a legitimate threat if Deku is exhausted because he's stupid. I did like that, it was Uraraka's plan. They went to Nezu, Principal Nezu, and was like, hey, call Endeavor back. And I like that, where he's like, you set me up. It's like, that was cool. It was a good way of getting to him. I also just love how It's like, yes, when we were preparing for the school festival, remember the gentle criminal arc? We've upped our defenses. It's like, oh, I want to see that shit. I want to see that shit now. This is going to be so fun. I want to see just fucking turrets, just gun turrets just show up to shoot down All For One and his goddamn Nomu. Oh, I love, too, that class had to be suspended. They can't get to year 2. It's so dumb. It's Stain. God damn it. I don't care about Stain. It's too late. He's been gone for 4 fucking seasons. And honestly, I liked Overhaul more. Like, Stain is kind of my least favorite villain. Like, we've had Overhaul, Gentle, Shigaraki, All For One at the time. I don't care about Stain anymore. Unless it literally just cuts back to All Might just standing over his dead body like, oh, yeah, he really wanted me to kill him. I guess that could be it, though, is the whole, oh, you'll die an unspeakably gruesome death to a villain. If it's fucking Stain. If Stain kills All Might, that's... no. So, okay. So I've done a lot of complaining in this episode, but again, part of it is the point that it's like, yeah, Deku isn't being himself. He is out of character. You know, this is pretty terrible. This is very bleak. And now here's Katsuki Bakugo to beat the shit out of him. You know, knock some sense into him. You know? Because of everything he's done. It's like, no, he shouldn't have been doing this, and now he's going to be on, you know, Uraraka's metaphorical couch for a while. But it's just so nice to see them goofy fucks again. Even I love when Yaoyorozu is like, oh, the villain is secure, Bakugo. And he's like, no, you gotta say my full name. And she's like, sorry, I forgot. It's just, man, I miss Yaoyorozu. I know I've been simping after Shimura for a while, which has a whole host of problems right there, but, oh, I miss Yaoyorozu. And Uraraka. And Jiro. Yeah. I was never an Ashido guy. I know there's people out there who do really like Ashido. I don't hate Ashido. I don't even dislike Ashido. I like Ashido, but man, I was just never an Ashido guy. Meh. It's not my preference, so. Yeah. I don't know. What better way to end on than by talking about waifus? 1 dead, 3 underage. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that. I'll just turn to Hagrid for a second. I should not have said that. Okay, it's also just a strange detail that Deku can't deactivate Black Whip. That's an interesting detail, but I mean, he's just losing it. I don't know. Is the second user ever going to sit down? I guess it's just that he's not fully in yet, but he's closer, you know? So they haven't gotten to the point where he can give his quirk yet. So I don't know. And then just all the users there, you know, they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like they're immediately, pretty much immediately, it's like, we thought we were good, but he's going too far. It's the burden of all their emotions, not just Shimura's. It's a lot of stuff. Anyway, let's hope Deku gets his ass kicked so that we can move on to better stuff. And then let's hope that All For One just dies, that Shigaraki is the main villain. Because again, like, I get it, and it's an interesting thing of like, oh, now Deku has to be the one to take on the villain and stuff, and it's very Luke Skywalker and Palpatine, but in a sense it's really Rey and Palpatine. It's still the somehow Palpatine returned, and it's still just not that good. You know, again, get your goddamn mask back, because when you're sitting there with your friggin' life support system on, and I know the mask is his life support system, at least it looked better. You just look like you're gonna break a hip. you look like Deku's gonna show up and you're gonna click on your life alert so that, you know, you can stop him. It's just give me Shigaraki. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing as in the Star Wars sequels. It's like, you promised me Kylo Ren as the main villain, and I was okay with that. I like Kylo Ren. I like Adam Driver. I thought that was a good idea, but somehow Palpatine returned. You gave me Shigaraki. I liked Shigaraki. I thought he was a really good villain, but somehow All for One returned. Gee, thanks. Thanks for that. With all that being said, because I keep dragging this out, and again, there was still good stuff in this episode we have to remember. I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I'll be back next week to probably complain about something else. So, see you guys there. Props to anyone who keeps powering through these videos. Y'all are the real deal. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist for all of My Hero Academia reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.